What's up, everybody? My name is Joe Brown and this is Heresy Financial. A bit of shocking news was reported recently by Bloomberg about something that is happening recently in Venezuela. People in certain regions in Venezuela have reverted to a gold standard. That's right, they're not using paper currency anymore if they can help it. They're not using Bitcoin, they're not using cryptocurrencies, they're using gold. Physical gold to buy and sell goods, to do commerce. And while it might be surprising that something like this is going on, I'm going to share with you why it's happening and why it probably shouldn't be that much of a shock. Ready? Let's dive in. I'm sure most of you are at least somewhat familiar with what has been happening in Venezuela over the last couple of years. They went from being one of the richest nations on earth about a decade ago, had horrible monetary policy, dictator, socialism, all the garbage, and it ruined their economy. Hyperinflation. They were the #1 hyperinflation country in the world for a while. They were just passed up recently by Lebanon, but essentially the people in Venezuela have been hurting very much for a long time. I can't remember where I saw this video, but I was watching a video where they were interviewing a local in Venezuela about living through that hyperinflation, and they were in front of a hot dog stand, and the cost of one hot dog was equal to what somebody would earn in a month of working there. One hot dog costs as much as you can make in 1 month, which means that the only way that anybody was surviving was by having foreign currencies imported and sent in from family members who had left the country to go find work that paid in other currencies that were worth a lot more. Well, now people in certain parts of Venezuela have gone back to a gold standard. They are trading goods and services for physical gold. People are actually carrying around gold and using it for purchases. This isn't some electronic transfer of gold ownership that's stored in a safe or a vault somewhere. It's physical gold. And they're using it for small purchases as well, which might sound surprising considering you have a 1-ounce gold coin in US dollars that's worth $1,800. You're not exactly going to go be able to use that for a haircut down the street easily and make change for that. But what people are doing are using gold flakes. So there's a part of Venezuela where you can pretty easily mine for gold. You can pan for it, you can chip it off the rocks. There's little nuggets of gold in the rocks and the mountains that people will go and they'll operate their own little mining operations, chip off little pieces of gold, and they'll start using that to pay their employees. They'll buy stuff with it. There's an operator of a small hotel who is accepting gold anytime he can. He'll accept people to pay for the night in gold, and then he'll use that gold to pay his employees. And I think the funniest part about this is the picture that Bloomberg used for this article is of somebody who is carrying their gold flakes wrapped up in a bolivar. So anybody that tells you fiat currency has no intrinsic value, just take a look at this. You can always use it to carry around your gold. Now, for a lot of people reading this story, seeing this happen might be shocking, but it really shouldn't be surprising at all. And here's the reason why. What is happening in Venezuela right now has happened every single time there has been hyperinflation in world history. Every single time the story goes like this. You have a government or a central bank who engages in reckless monetary policy. Prices spike as a result of that expansion of the money supply. You then have a crisis of confidence, lack of faith in the currency. People start dumping the currency as fast as they can, triggering hyperinflation. And that hyperinflation then causes people eventually, without the government, to go back to using a gold standard. And sometimes in history, it's been a silver standard. It's a bottom-up process of going back to the gold standard. And once that practice of using gold or silver in some cases makes its way throughout most of the society, then the government, then the central bank, then they change their practices. Then there's a top-down response to re-back a new currency with gold or silver. But every time you've seen hyperinflation take place in history, there has been, even if it's a black market, a market has developed where people go back to using gold and silver for daily commerce. And it's not necessarily recorded in the official documents because you're not going to see this take place from the top down. The top down, the official documents, they're still going to be showing official exchange rates. They're still going to be showing, hey, this is what the currency is worth. But from a bottom up level, people on the streets, people on the ground usually start using more stable forms of money, and most most of the time throughout history, that's going to be gold or silver. Now, to be fair, it's not everybody in Venezuela doing this. And if you are closer to one of the borders of one of the bordering nations in Venezuela, those people are most of the time going to be using the foreign currency from the bordering nation. So the people who are on the border next to Colombia are using the peso. People on the border next to Brazil are using the real. And to be honest, if your currency is going through hyperinflation, you would prefer pretty much any other currency in the world over your own. But for the people who aren't next to the border of another nation with a stronger currency, and they can go and do real work, get real gold, something that has a global exchange rate, something that is very stable globally for thousands of years, they can go and get that and use that to pay for things that are now being denominated in gold. To stay at the hotel, it's a half a gram per night. To get lunch for two, it's a quarter of a gram. And this also goes to show why gold organically emerged as the money of choice for most people for most of human history, because it's easy to make sure that gold is real. And for those of us who swipe a card or use Apple Pay for every single transaction, might be hard to think this way, but gold has physical properties that make it very easily identifiable. You don't have to be an expert in geology to be able to recognize gold, especially if you're dealing with it every single day. So while the practice of using gold as money, going back to a gold standard, has been growing inside Venezuela, the chances that this has any global impact, any broader impact outside of Venezuela, probably very unlikely. But it just goes to show the forces of history are very strong. And when you watch something happen over and over and over again throughout history, you can then look at it happening again in a place like Venezuela, make a bet that says more than likely they're going to do what everybody else did, which is revert to a gold standard. It's not guaranteed, but the chances are high, and Venezuela just fell in line with every single other occurrence of hyperinflation so far in world history. As always, really appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.